Morning. It's Wednesday, July 10th. That's hump day. Been a long week already, Doug, with our two shows. We got one tomorrow, and then we'll check out for the weekend. Tomorrow, quick announcement. Tomorrow, early showtime, 9:30 a.m., not 11 a.m. We'll remind you that at the evening or in the end of the show. But today we got a fun article. 75 pills is how many Peter Diamandis, I don't know how you say it, how many he takes a day. He's super famous longevity guy. And I think the Moonshot Prize or not TEDx, SpaceX. He was SpaceX. That was his thing. Big, innovator, futurist type guy. So we'll talk about that, whether that's a crazy idea or a good idea. Doug, how are we doing today? What's the buzz?
Matt, we're doing all right. We are, we're doing all right. A little crazy in our house. Summertime. I'm not gonna talk too much about kids, and people don't want to listen to me talk about my kids. But every week is different because you have different camps and different things, different people visiting, travel. Every week is different, and it's just hard to get into a schedule. I don't know. I mean, kids are at camp this week in the mornings, but not in the afternoons. Katie's traveling in the second half of the week. It's just kind of all up in the air. It's like just a little nutso,
Yes, I do know. And I struggle with not that specifically, but the idea of summers being too busy with the stuff.
Yeah.
Like we just constantly every summer we're like, we're not going to do this much next summer. We just need to have time. Those good old days where you don't do anything, where you just sit around and
right. Yeah.
But we don't seem to learn from our mistakes.
I know. And I don't know. It just makes me appreciate schedules a lot. And I don't feel like I'm like a really rigid schedule kind of guy at all, really. But I think I struggle when you're at home. If you're on vacation, if you're traveling or something like that, go with the flow. I can handle that pretty well. But when you're at home and you're trying to work and trying to like do the life stuff and be flexible, that's when it gets challenging.
Yeah, right. You need to read Berenstain Bears Too Much Pressure. You guys have that one?
Too Much Pressure? I don't think I do have that one.
Yeah, that's a new one. I bought that for my daughter this year. She's 11.
Oh, new one.
But I bought her for Christmas. No, I think it was her birthday. 3 Berenstain Bears books, new ones that I think they're like kind of still the old era because the really new ones are no good.
Yeah, the really new ones are no good.
Yeah, but I found
they're much shorter though, which I appreciate. The old ones are super long.
Yeah, the long. Yeah, some of, and they're not all the same length. Some of them are just really long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of these new ones is really long too. It might even be Pressure. No, it was
okay.
It was Too Much Teasing. Too Much Teasing is long.
Too Much Teasing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so how was day 2 of the hard 75?
It was good. One small hiccup is I realized that it's not that easy to drink a gallon of water. I thought that was no problem. I wasn't even really counting it the first day. I was just like, well, I'll just eyeball these glasses that I'm drinking of 12 ounces each. But so after about 4 of them, it was like 5 o'clock in the night. I was like, well, I better start putting these in the 32-ounce bottle so I can keep track. And then I tried to drink that thing, 2.5 of those, and I couldn't finish it. So I, in a way, failed on day 2, but I'm okay with that. Like the way I said it to myself was like, if I read a book and I was starting a new workout program, you don't expect the first day at the gym to get all the, things right. You're gonna make some mistakes. You'll fix them the next time.
Yeah.
And so I'm fine with that.
Did you did you feel more hydrated? Do you think it matters? Or do you think that's just one of those challenges?
I can't tell yet because I haven't drank enough. Like I really kind of until 5 p.m. yesterday, I was just drinking my normal amount of water, thinking that would easily get me to a gallon. Because the first day I just didn't even pay attention. I just thought I was drinking a lot of water. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think some placebo effect, or at least mental thing where I feel like I'm with eating the salads and walking a lot. Although the walking would dehydrate me because it's so hot out. But anyway, I don't know. I feel good. We'll see.
You doing it today?
Yeah, I went for a walk already today. It was 80 degrees at 8 a.m. this morning, and it's going to get up to 96 by 5. So if I go out again, I don't know. It'll be hot. I may do some kettlebell swings or something instead. So we'll see. But it's good. I'm enjoying. It's good to try new things. So I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, awesome.
But tomorrow it just goes out the window, right? Because I'm not going to keep it up on my driving day. I don't think I'm going to try that hard. Maybe I will. Maybe I actually will try that hard.
Yeah,
I feel too much water. I'll stop all the time on the drive.
You what?
I'd have to stop to go to the bathroom on the drive. Like I was trying to, for an 8-hour drive, I can't be chugging water the whole time.
Maybe you do 25 or 75 soft.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Just swap in
Yeah.
soft.
On your like travel days or challenging days, you do the
That's a good idea.
soft version.
That's not a bad idea.
Mhm.
Do I allow drinking then? Was drinking ever allowed in any of the levels of 75?
I don't know. I mean, but you make your own soft, right? Like,
Right. Okay.
but you do one of the workouts. You drink so much water, and what's the other stuff? Oh, and you stick to your diet for the most part. But then
Mhm.
you can have some brewskis and
That's a good idea. Rather than just quit everything, I should still try to do
yeah.
one workout tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I entered this thinking all I'm doing is I want to feel what a day on this feels like, or a couple days on this feels like. That
Mhm.
was the goal of this part. I knew that I would stop on Thursday when I have to travel. So I'm okay if I don't keep going. But no, I mean, I think it's a good point, and I feel like I don't want to just give it up. It feels good right now.
Yeah.
All right, Jessica wants to know: is it healthy enough? Is it healthy to drink a gallon? A gallon, though. I drink about half of that. She says, in terms of water, not tea, etc. And I ask myself the same thing, right? Like if I'm not taking in enough salts and things, and you're not supposed to. Well, I don't know if you can add electrolytes to water. You're not supposed to add any flavorings to water, for the purposes of this challenge. But I did, too much overhydration is certainly a thing. Like with marathon running, hyponatremia that happens, dangerous thing. I don't think that's going to happen in the course of a normal day. But is a gallon healthy, or could it be that that's just like 30% more than you need every day? And over time, you're kind of just sub-optimizing. Especially with, like she says, we drink other things. Like I have coffee. I didn't count that as water. And I don't count fruits and vegetables and things as water, but they have plenty of it. In fact, we almost did an article today on the 7 or the 10 most hydrating summer foods. Thankfully, we found a much better one to do. but you're getting it in fruits and vegetables.
Do you remember the 10?
Well, I know watermelon was number 1. I don't know if there's any particular order.
Okay.
Cucumber's number 2. Not just this is from Best Life Online. Not just for covering your eyes. They said on a.
Oh yes, good one. All right, let me see if I can guess some more. Okay. Melons.
Let me pull it up real quick.
Okay.
Melon was on there. Yep. You got I told you watermelon, but there was another appearance.
Well, so like, does cantaloupe, is it separate or is it
Cantaloupe is a separate category.
Okay. So I mean, honeydew. I mean, does that count as one too, or at that point?
No, and that's that. This is Best Life Online. You got to take it with a grain of salt. Why would they have cantaloupe on here? Why would they have cantaloupe but not honeydew? Who knows?
Okay. All right, but we got watermelon, we got cucumber, we got cantaloupe.
And by the way, I don't know if there's any science behind this at all. It's like different nutritionists throughout saying why the foods are good. No, actually, there's a nutritionist who's saying a percentage of water in these.
Okay.
But it's sort of out of order. So
tomatoes?
Tomatoes, I think yes, they are on there. They're number 9 at 95% water. Okay. Which is higher than many.
I mean, what about like lettuce?
Lettuce is not, but spinach is.
Spinach, okay, and like celery, something like that.
I mean, wait, do you think spinach really has any more water than other lettuces?
No, I mean, I would say that like other lettuces might have more water.
Green family, right? Yeah, so who knows? Yeah, celery's on there. This is good. You're knocking these off, Doug. I should have sound effects going for this. Celery's number 3, a great snack for the beach or a barbecue, they say, which I don't know if I agree with. But it is hydrating.
Bell peppers probably are on there.
I don't know, Doug. As soon as I get the sounds up, is when you go off the rails.
No.
Wrong answer submitted. No bell peppers. They seem pretty water rich to me.
Yeah. No. Okay. So now I'm struggling a bit. Let me just recap. We got tomatoes, watermelon, cucumber, honeydew melon / cantaloupe,
celery.
So that's 5.
I think you've gotten 5 of them. Yep.
Oh, and spinach.
Oh yeah, 6.
Man. All right. Let's think. Okay. Let me do a couple more guesses, and then you can.
You want to guess any animal products? Just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's in the list.
Animal products.
I'm noticing you're staying away from those.
I am staying away from those because I hadn't thought about any. Let's see. What would be an animal product that would be hydrating?
Don't think there are none on the list. No animal products.
Okay. Okay. All right. What about like squash and stuff? Things like that.
Woohoo! Number 8 on the list, squash. You may think of it as a fall food, but you may want to consider picking some up. It says Yeah, so that would be your zucchini, I guess, in the summer. That's the way to use the glut of zucchini is use it to hydrate.
Okay. All right. Dale says pineapple, which I didn't even think about. Fruit, of course, fruit.
Of course, fruit.
Um,
Watermelon, you got that one. Pineapple's not on the list.
Pineapple.
I don't know why. It seems very wet to me.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, like apples. Would apples be one?
No, not on the list. No apples.
No apples. What other fruit? Like oranges? I mean, come on. I mean,
Oranges.
oranges.
Yep.
Like
Oranges
okay.
is on the list. And I think there's one more fruit on here. Oh, cucumbers. Don't forget. We said cucumbers earlier.
Cucumbers. Okay.
There's only one more item on the list, and it's a fruit. No, 2 fruits. Sorry, 2 fruits left on the list.
I think that's it. 2 fruits. Okay. Oh man. Garuda says olives, which I would not have said olive myself.
Olives are not on the list.
All right. 2 fruit. I'm gonna like a berry, possibly. I don't know.
One berry is on the list. Which one is it?
Let's go with strawberry.
Yep, strawberry is it. 92% water.
92%. And Britter says mangoes. That's not a bad guess.
Not a bad guess. It's not mangoes, but it's close. Related.
Ooh, related to mango.
In my mind, it's
mango. Coconut. Garuda says coconut.
Nope. But similarly tropical as these things.
Papaya.
Yep, papaya is it.
Woohoo!
That's only 89% water, but somehow it made number 7 on the list.
Yeah, grapes. Dale says grapes. Of course. I mean, come on. There's no way that
I remember reading something a while ago about watermelon wasn't as watery as you think because there's some other thing that was more watery, and I don't think that thing was on the list.
I mean, watermelon is pretty watery.
It is. It definitely is.
Like you can't eat it without juice just like dripping down.
Right.
And it's so good, man. Watermelon when it's ripe.
Yeah, watermelon is really good. But
especially when it's cold. I mean, the trick is, of course, is to put the watermelon in the fridge before you slice it.
That's a good idea.
You don't do that? I mean, come on.
No. I don't like eating off of a slice of watermelon, by the way. I like to cut the flesh away and then eat it.
I mean, that's fair. I can see that.
Yeah. Well, most lists that I'm finding are saying watermelon is pretty high up there, but cucumber seems to be with it or better. Pineapple is on a different list, 95%, right there next to watermelon at 96. So that was a good guess. A lot of consistency across the list that I'm seeing. These are mostly agreeing with the thing. Bell peppers is on one of these lists.
Okay.
So anyway, I think pretty obvious. Only spinach is the one that hides its secrets. Not a lot of juice.
Yeah. Someone said iceberg would be more watery. I would have said that.
Iceberg seems more watery.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a fun game that we played. I'm glad we did that. I didn't yet tell my story. I meant to tell it yesterday. We finished our episode, and then I picked up my new phone, to do something. I forget what. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell my outdoorsman story. I decided to get in a kayak at the beach, the house where I stayed, which has been my family for a long time, right on the canal, man-made straight canal, has a nice path along it. I've been doing some walking on. It was good. But I did some kayaking because they have some kayaks at the house. And one day I actually went for like 45 minutes or an hour, and against the current, it was tough workout. It was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Well, you notoriously hate kayaking and paddleboarding and any sort of
I mostly hate stand-up paddle. That I thought was the most boring thing in the world.
Okay. All right.
At least you can sit while you kayak, and it was somewhat more enjoyable for that reason. But yeah, I did not like stand-up whatever it's called when I did it. But anyway, so yeah, I got in the kayak with my daughter. We went out, and then when we came back, I was trying to like get the thing just back up. It wasn't even a dock; it's just get it back up onto the thing that slopes into the canal. And I just figured I would stand up and try to like get some more leverage and position maneuver. And it immediately tipped over, and I just went totally into the canal with my phone in my pocket. Another person was happened to be passing by then, laughed at me. I mean, I went completely in, and I don't know how deep it is, 4 or 5 feet, not too deep. But anyway, and then I texted Steven because in trying to save my phone, I saw that there was a message from him from WhatsApp, where sometimes he sends a message and I message him, but I couldn't even read it. Like I saw it was coming up, I was trying to load it, and then the phone basically died at that point. So I texted him later, and he said, "It's a shame you try a little bit of outdoors activity, you try to do it, and look what happens." And he's right. I'm just not destined for that.
I mean, who thinks it's a good idea to stand up in a kayak? Seriously.
Someone who doesn't know that it isn't. I see people standing up all the time on stand-up paddle boards.
Yeah, it's a very different thing than a kayak.
I didn't think it was. I really thought it was the same device.
Was your daughter in the same boat, or was she in different?
No, she was next to me.
Okay. Did she think it was funny? Did she laugh?
Yeah, she thought it was funny. She laughed.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your phone. That is annoying.
Yeah, it was ready to go. It was all busted up because I
Okay.
don't do a case.
Do you did you get like a new phone?
No, I got a refurb. Backmarket.com.
Mm.
Kept it small. It is a newer one than my 2020 SE, but it's the same size, just slightly bigger screen for the size. So anyway, I like backmarket.com. That's a good site.
That's funny.
Yes.
I appreciate you giving it a try. Like Steven says, I appreciate you giving it a try.
And I actually went out again later. I didn't hate it, and I did it again
Okay.
later with Erin instead of Ellery, where I was willing to go a little further because I was less worried about her not being able to make it back, like I would be with my daughter. And we had a good time. Saw like 5 different herons out there because those are all over the place. Some other kind of bird that I could not identify, but it was nice. It was good.
Did you bring your phone second time?
That's a good question. I didn't consciously not bring it, but I think I didn't. I think I did not bring it, but I don't remember saying, "Well, I'm definitely not bringing a phone."
You know what I've found this year, and I should probably post a picture in the Discord or something. For the first time in my life, there's been 2 places. There's 2 nests and ground nests that some sort of bird has laid with like really big eggs that look almost like chicken eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what kind of bird that could be though, doing ground nests in my yard.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. You should look it up.
I should.
Could be a towhee. They hang out on the ground. Is that how you say that word? Towhee? Towhee? Those orange and the black, orange, white birds.
Hmm.
They're always on the ground, scratching around.
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, good. So we got a couple items in the weather report. By the way, people on YouTube who are not familiar with the show, they always complain that it takes too long to get to the topic that we list.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that like totally normal? Like, isn't that how you would do a show like this? Like you put the main title and you do all the normal stuff before you get to it. It's not like you jump right into the topic. That wouldn't be any good of a show. So anyway, if people who are regulars don't like, I think Mr. Jeffrey responded to one of those comments once and said it's part of the charm or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you disagree, you can tell us. We could always. Some shows I see on like Twitter Spaces, they're constantly changing the title throughout the show about the thing that they're talking about. So they're just updating it. But then eventually you got to put a single topic for YouTube once it's a recording. So anyway, I don't know. It's just how it is. I guess if we put up like timestamps or something, people would understand it better. You know what? I completely forgot to publish the show yesterday. I need to do that after this is done immediately. My mistake.
Share. I'm looking at the comments here on yesterday's episode. Sherry J 7000 says that she listened to the Rich Roll podcast as well, and similarly went from skeptical mind to coming away intrigued about cultivated meat.
Wow, it's a good salesman and a good ambassador for the product.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to get that a listen.
All right.
Alrighty.
Let's see. Weather report. Let's make it happen here.
Let's jump in here. Weather report for this day, July 10th, Wednesday. Number 1, due to a campaign by a Dutch animal welfare organization, or at least following a campaign, says Veg Economist, 11 major supermarkets in the Netherlands have committed to increase plant-based meat offerings over the next 5 years to reach 60%. That's the goal that they want to reach by 2030. Currently, they're at 40% of proteins. Aldi is probably, and Lidl, those are 2 very famous. Well, I guess I don't. You know what? I guess they're not Dutch supermarkets. They're just supermarkets that exist in the Netherlands. Anyway, those are 2 of the ones. A bunch more are on there now, including Spar, SPAR. I think I went to that in Germany, and then a bunch that I've never heard of. But one holdout is Vomar. They're not doing it. They're not joining into the thing. They're going to be like the counter culture or whatever. The other option. So that's good. Netherlands always seems to be leading the way with this stuff. So that's kind of cool. And then the only other weather report item we have today.
Before related to this, I saw that Tractor Supply had some sort of big climate pledge that they announced a week or 2 ago. Obviously not food related, but trying to cut emissions and change their product line, and it faced huge backlash.
Yeah, I can imagine. That seems like an opportunity for them.
And I don't know. I mean, so like, I see this and I think this is great for the Dutch Animal Welfare or for the 11 supermarkets.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if that other one's just trying to be an outlier and say like,
Yeah,
you know,
they're gonna go for a different market.
I'm not going to be
People who
woke
don't want that.
like you liberals want.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that's a good point. I mean, yeah, I don't know how you know better than I do. How big of like the conservative platform is the idea that climate change is a scam? I don't think that's not like mainstream conservative, right?
I think. I mean, I don't know about scam, but yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like that we don't need to worry about it is pretty mainstream.
Is it okay? I was thinking that was more just the Proud Boys sort of
No,
fringe.
I think it's pretty
Yeah.
mainstream that like we shouldn't be concerned about it.
Interesting.
At least in the United States. I don't obviously don't know anything about Dutch
Right.
politics.
Right. All right. Well, luckily none of us will be around to find out. So we won't know who was right and who was wrong.
So our grandkids.
Yeah, they will. We will. Okay. The other bit here is
supplements.
What?
Unless we take 75 supplements, then we might be around to find out.
That's true. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. Veganz Group, Veganz. They've taken over 1,000 square meters of new space in Germany to expand and increase the production capacity of new milk alternatives from their 2D printer. That's the interesting technology they have here is a 2D printer, not 3D. So they're going retro to print the oat milk. I have a 2D printer. We all have 2D printers in our house if we even still have printers. So I was thinking, how are they possibly doing this?
Yeah, what is this? I don't get it.
Well, they make large sheets. Each sheet, it's called an A4 sized sheet. So I don't know if that's like an industry standard of sheet sizes. It must be. And they make oat milk sheets that each produce 10 liters of oat milk. So I don't know if you kind of like fold the sheet up onto itself and then just turns into oat milk, or I'm guessing it's like something that would get mixed with water and then
yeah, probably. There's no way it has water content in it.
It's like spinach. It has water locked into it. You just don't.
Maybe it's like our laundry detergent sheets that we like.
Yeah, well, those you have to add water, obviously.
Yeah,
so yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Stuff, you pour water in there. I don't know. It's kind of a cool idea. Ship it
in
a box.
We've seen the company that sells the oat milk, whatever powder or something that you would just rehydrate to create your oat milk. So this isn't that different. It's just instead of being a powder, it's in a sheet.
I think this is kind of a really cool idea. You can take oat milk everywhere. You just like drop it in your coffee.
I don't know if that's what it's for. I don't know if it's for the consumer to have it in sheet form. And maybe it is. I think it might be just for the manufacturers. It says this saves 88% in packaging materials and storage volume and at least 80% in weight. So there's your water missing part. Yeah, I don't know if they just ship it to places and then the restaurants or whoever's making the stuff would then turn the sheets into the oat milk, or if it will be a consumer version of the product. But yeah, you're right. It's kind of cool if it was a consumer thing. There you go.
Awesome. Here, hold on. I'm going to pull it up. There's photos.
Okay.
Let's see. Would you drink oat milk sheets? That's the question.
Garuda wouldn't. Garuda says, so basically you add the sheets in the water and hope it's safe to drink. Is it like Listerine mouthwash sheets? Remember those things? That was always an odd experience. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I don't think this would be unsafe, but you don't know what else they're putting in there. I mean, they probably have to put something else to make it behave nicely in the sheet format.
It's just dehydrated oats. Whatever's in oat milk, just dehydrated, probably, right?
Yeah, but then, I mean, like I could at home make a sheet out of oat milk, or do I need to add other things to get it to behave nicely?
So there's the packaging. Look, there's the sheets.
Okay, so they are for consumers. I figured they were much bigger. So A4 must be a small like piece of paper size sheet.
I love this. I think it's awesome.
How do you
really
mix it up? Like, there's probably gonna be like bits of sheets floating around in your oat milk. I'm sure it doesn't.
Put it in like a shaker or something.
Right.
A little blender. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I could see myself ripping off little pieces and just like dropping it in my coffee, or taking it to go, having a little oat milk sheets that I'm reading in my mouth.
We can just replace all food with sheets that you just put into water
Yeah,
right in your mouth, and then it's easier to store.
I think it's great.
They should start shaping the cultivated meat into sheets for people to just consume cultivated meat that way. Garuda would be into that.
You could turn these into little tacos, oat milk tacos.
Yeah.
10 of these A4 sheets makes 10 liters of oat milk, which can then be sent by post and transported. Oh, I don't know if it's unclear if it's for consumers, but okay. So one sheet basically equals a liter of oat milk. So you're not gonna drop a whole sheet in your coffee.
Okay. Yeah, but you might rip a little piece off.
I don't know.
And to make perforated, you can easily rip
it
off. All right. Well, yeah, it is kind of cool, interesting, high tech. Seems a little like a weird experience, but perhaps it's not that weird in the actual drink. Vegan Science says Garuda always has unwarranted suspicion, and I think this is why I kind of like Garuda's takes. I don't agree with the takes, but I like this constant skepticism about these things. So I don't think it is unwarranted. I think he's being a good skeptic, and as long as he's equally suspicious about the animal products and things that he eats, I think it's fair. He arrives at different conclusions than I do, but I think we share that. He says it would be good for camping, Garuda.
Yeah, it's perfect for camping, backpacking. I mid ultramarathon pull out a sheet of almond milk and put it in my little bottle, shake it up.
Yeah, or put it just right in your mouth. Don't even need extra. All right. Well, it seems like a good idea. Vegan Science wasn't only talking about Garuda. I guess he was also talking about me, perhaps. But I wasn't acting suspicious about this. I do wonder what else they have to add to it. That's I guess suspicion, but that's warranted. Okay. So there you go. There's your thing. Let's see who's has unwarranted suspicion about this one. This is Peter Diamandis, I think is how you say it. I don't know. The headline is from Diamandis.com. Why I take 75 pills every day and what they do. And so he goes through this list here. At the end of the post, he's promoting his Abundance Platinum longevity trip. So, this is content that is made to get attention, I guess, and bring in the right people, and then they might sign up for his trip. Maybe that's unwarranted suspicion to think that, but I don't know. So who knows if he really does do this all the time? But he does it. He says every day I take over 75 different medications and supplements. You're wondering why anyone would take so many pills. How do you select what they take, and do they work? So that's what he's missing. The huge question of mine is this safe, and do we have any idea how these things work together in the body? He never answers that, never asks that question even. So to me, he's missing a large amount of suspicion that he should have. But anyway, he goes through his routine. We're not going to go through all of it because most of it's just impossible to understand, or at least you'd have to do research on all these things to know if any of it's true. But rapamycin is his big one, and I've heard Peter Attia talk about that as well in his book, or read about him talking about that. That one appears to have a lot of research behind it. Diamandis here says that the clinical trials in humans are just beginning to prove this out, but it is likely to be the most impactful longevity medicine at this time. So there's that one. And then he goes into the 12 hallmarks of aging, which is something we've investigated at Complement a bit. We've talked about possibly making a product that would address the 12 hallmarks of aging, and ultimately decided, since many of us wouldn't want to take this thing, it's probably not the right thing for our customers, because it just kind of makes you take a bunch of stuff that is doesn't sound like food and isn't probably something that we were consuming in nature and now we're not anymore, but it would make sense to put it back in. That's how most of the normal complement products are. But if you eat a plant-based diet, you're not consuming these things that naturally we would have consumed for a long period of time if we were eating animals. So this is like stuff that just in theory would help with certain things that would lessen aging, but there's no historical precedent for this, is my issue with it. So anyway, he goes through the list. I mean, it's not even worth reading the things. It's just a ton of stuff. There's a few things that sound like things we know. He does have creatine in there. He does have B complex. So that's probably has B12. I don't know. He takes CoQ10 is his way of getting the B complex. Mentions taurine, which I don't take, but you hear about that all the time. Testosterone hormone, DHEA. I'm just reading the ones that sound at all familiar.
Yeah. What is DHEA?
I don't know, but I think it's a hormone related thing. I think it came up in one of those Everlywell tests that I did, like the male health or whatever. Anyway, it's not the same or related to DHA.
Okay.
But
he does take ALA,
okay,
which I thought was interesting, but not.
that
I
is
don't
really
see.
interesting because that's right. You can get that in walnuts and things. So
He also, I mean, so like the first one, this Stemets 7 is a blend of 7 mushrooms.
yeah, okay.
You know, I mean, it's just a bunch of stuff.
I mean, that's as tame as it gets, like 7 mushrooms. But even that would be something like
testosterone. Like,
yeah,
do people really want to be taking testosterone for the rest of their life?
I don't know. Like if someone just came to you and said, "Hey, I have this new pill. It has 7 mushrooms in it. They're all medicinal mushrooms. They work synergistically and they help with immune function and all this stuff." Like that alone, I'm like, well, I need to do a ton of research on these mushrooms and make sure that they are good to be taken in these doses. And I'm sure he's done the research or had someone do the research to make sure these things are safe in the doses that he's taking. But my problem would be over how long a time frame are they safe? How much research has been done? How long a period do we know these things are good to take?
Yeah.
Without side effects that are totally unknown unknowns, basically. And then the interactions between these things, that's my major one. Like any one of these things might make sense, and there might be research about that one thing. But that one with all the other 74, any of the other 74, there's very little research on, I promise. And then, pairs and groups, like it just seems like a massive amount of risk to be taking on to do this. I just don't understand how anyone smart could say this is a good idea.
I also shared, I don't know if you saw it because I shared it right before the show, but Brian Johnson, the other longevity guy,
the guy spending $2 million a year or something.
Yeah. His supplement protocol, which I'm pulling up on the screen now, and it's like 50, I think. So you can find the actual spot. But I just I have this real problem, not just about exactly what you said, which is about how they work together, whether they're safe for long-term health, but also just the approach of saying, okay, these are the biomarkers of aging. I don't necessarily have a problem, but I'm going to get specific nutrients that target those biomarkers. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of that stuff, inflammation, for example, is a great example, can be very beneficial to the body too, obviously. You want to minimize it, but it's off, you get inflammation and it's trying to combat it. So,
right.
So hyper targeting these specific biomarkers is just, I don't know, I have a real problem with that unless you have a specific problem you're trying to address.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, this then gets to a much more general problem, but a huge one. First of all, there's the fact that these are biomarkers. These aren't actual outcomes. And the research that these things are based on surely isn't that taking, who knows what it is. The one that's designed to increase telomere length, for example, right? I'm sure there isn't, I shouldn't say sure, but highly unlikely that there is evidence that if people take this certain thing in the certain dose, they will live longer, because it's hard to measure that kind of thing. We run into this all the time with nutrition. That's why there's so much issues. It's hard to do studies that long and control them, knowing that the person is actually doing what they're supposed to do for that amount of period and have, a clinical trial. It's very, very impractical. So what is done instead is biomarkers. And we say, okay, we know telomere length is associated with people actually living longer if they have longer telomeres. And we know this thing in clinical trials can show that it does increase that length. So therefore, this thing is going to lead to longer life. That's a jump that is not guaranteed to be, a valid conclusion, but it's kind of the best you can do. And so, there's that part. But then there's also this other part that you're getting at, which is that we might change one of these biomarkers that we think, like you said, inflammation might lead to less inflammation might lead to longer life in general. But what if the inflammation is doing a purpose, especially a purpose that is designed, that happens because you're taking all this other stuff. And now you're preventing it from your body from doing its thing. So we're reducing this incredible. I mean, look, there's 75 things here, but the body itself is so much more complex than any of these things are, and their mechanism in the body. The body's doing all this stuff at once. to reduce the idea of making that body live longer to any single dimension and saying this one marker must need to be increased, that alone, or decreased or whatever, like that alone is just a massive jump in logic to me. So to be trying to do it with 75 different markers or however many markers he's trying to move here with these things, it just seems like I mean, you might as well roll dice and have to take a bunch of stuff, and some of it being bad for you, because I just don't see. It just seems like a total, like, basically it's to me it's sort of arrogance as far as how much we understand, right? It's like this idea that we know so much more than we actually do about stuff, to think that this actually works.
So how do you square this as a co-founder of a supplement company?
Yeah, I wondered that exact question. I think it's a valid question to ask. For me, it's what I said in the beginning, that the things we have this sort of natural or historical precedent, and it's like the things that are in our food, right? We're putting things back in that you no longer get if you decide you're going to be a plant-based eater for whatever reason, right? And the easiest argument to make is if you want to be an ethical vegan, there are certain things you need to put back in, right? You're not doing this for health reasons, but you need to put these certain things back in, or at least some of them. B12 is the one that I think is most universally agreed on. And so like you're putting back in something that is in food and in the environment. That's very different from like saying these are theories that these things change certain markers and we think these markers will lead to people living longer. So anyway, but in our supplement company, like a huge part of our existence, or our I don't know what you call it, our thesis, our brand, is like only putting in this stuff, the bare minute. It's a minimalistic supplement company. Like we don't make, like I said, we said no to this idea of a product that addresses the 12 hallmarks of aging because it's the opposite of that philosophy. I'm not saying we'll never do that, because philosophies do evolve and change. It's possible that one day we would do that. I don't know. But so far, everything we do is like remove anything that we don't think is absolutely necessary. And if we're going to put in extra stuff, we tend to sort of make it an optional addition as well, like the extra omega-3s. Like we don't load those all into the complement essential. We make it so that if you want more omega-3s in that, you can get it in a separate product. So anyway, yeah, I mean, that's how I guess rationalize it, but that's not really the right word, because the company exists for that reason, right? We didn't want to take a full multivitamin, so we created Complement Essential, which had fewer things.
Yeah.
So look at this. We turned this into an ad for our own brand.
That's right. You should go to lovecomplement.com, check out Complement Essential. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
We should make the 75 pill stack and sell that and say everything you need to get Peter Diamandis' 75 pills and nothing you don't, all in one convenient pill, one giant pill, I guess, or a lot of them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it like this type of protocol doesn't resonate with me at all. And this is someone who takes supplements every day. It takes multiple supplements. He takes Complement Essential, also takes creatine, every day.
Yeah. There's also a huge philosophical difference here. Like the people who are into this, I guess you call this biohacking. Maybe it's called longevity research. I don't know what you call it now. But like this is very different from the Blue Zone's philosophy of like, let's find what actually has worked for people and let's maximize what we can get out of life, according to what we've seen people get so far.
Right.
That's like that, and that leads to very natural answers of things that appear, easy pills to swallow, so to speak. But this one is not. He's talking about let's get way beyond anyone's ever lived before, and let's push the boundary of what's possible for human body. So like very different thing, and I guess that's a good thing, right? Because we will learn stuff from this group of people who are doing this, and we'll figure out what does work, and we'll figure out what unanticipated side effects there are. So we might get somewhere, but. So I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. It's just I don't know how. I wouldn't want to be the guinea pig here.
No. This is somewhat related, but not entirely related. I guess at the end of last week or sometime last week, the daily podcast, the New York Times daily podcast, did an episode on alcohol, whether is it really bad for you or is it really good for you, and how the science has shifted and stuff like that. Kind of explained those shifts. But what I found, I think, the most interesting was that how little of it on an individual level, like collectively, if you increase your rate of death to 1% or something like that, then that's a big impact. But on an individual level, as you're deciding whether to drink 0 drinks or 3, something like that, like it's going to have a pretty minimal impact on your life, unless there's another underlying issue, unless you have high risk of cancer or something else that is amplified by alcohol. But for a typical healthy person, the notes that I wrote down were 2 drinks per week you lose about 1 week of life on average. And 7 drinks per week, you might lose a few months of life.
That
And
average doesn't work, right? It's not an average. It's not like everyone who drinks loses that amount, right? Some people get cancer way early then, and some people don't have any loss of life, right? So that's
yeah, of course, right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's all about your individual risk, right? But well, hold on. Maybe so. I don't know. I didn't write down on average. 2 drinks per week will reduce your life by 1 week.
But surely that means on average, right? Because it's not like
Yeah.
everyone drinks
Yeah.
dies 1 week early. It's that the average lifespan is less than that. So yeah, I mean, trust me, I've thought about this in these ways a lot.
And then another part that's a little bit more related maybe to the supplement is 6 drinks. 6 drinks increased risk of dying from alcohol.
This is per week.
6 drinks per week. Increased risk of dying from alcohol-related cause by a factor of 10%, or 10x by a factor of 10, which sounds like a lot, right?
Right. Compared to what? Compared to someone who drinks none?
Who drinks none? Yes.
Well, then how would they have any risk of dying from an alcohol-related cause?
I don't know. Good question. Maybe I didn't take very good notes. but still, the point is that it's still that only brings you to a 1% risk of dying from an alcohol-related cause. So like it sounds like a big increase, but it's still like on an individual level pretty small. That's what's going to kill you, right? You're going to die from all the other stuff.
Yep.
And the way I'm tying this back in, the reason I brought this up was because like all these things, maybe if you take this, it'll decrease your risk of dying from heart disease by 10% or something like that. But if your overall risk of dying from heart disease is very small to begin with, then that's really not going to make a big difference. So as you're like, you're picking all these different nutrients, picking all these different studies to say like, I should take this, I should take that, I should do this because it's going to reduce my risk by whatever percent. Chances are it's probably not actually going to have much of an impact. You're going to end up dying from something else.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. If it's a rare thing, then even a large difference in its frequency doesn't matter much. That's a good point. You and I did a podcast episode, which I've gone back and listened to actually since then, about when the big headline was "There's no safe level of drinking." That was what came from a study, and all the media was saying that's the story. There's no safe level of drinking, reports this thing, and we found a New York Times person who broke it down and looked at like the amount of people who would have an alcohol related health issue compared to the number of people who would have that health issue anyway, and it was such a minuscule thing. For 1 drink a day, the amount was so minuscule as to be like, my conclusion from that was I can totally ignore that. Like 1%, one drink a day comes with essentially zero risk, which is very much the opposite of there's no safe level of drinking. I think it had to do like, it was like if in a certain group there would be 900 health issues, anyway, now with some people who drank 1 drink a day, there would be 905 health issues. Something very small. Like it's just almost think it wouldn't matter. It may have even been actually smaller than that. But anyway, once you went up to 2, that number, the discrepancy like 10 times. So there was a big difference between 1 and 2 drinks. So it gets to a point where like you say like, yes, this is a level of risk that I would not want to take on anymore. But yeah, it is interesting how the different ways to interpret those stats.
Yeah. The other interesting thing that came out of that episode was, a while back, there was all the positive press about red wine and alcohol.
Yeah, right.
And how, it's healthy for you. And at least what this podcast said was that study that all these headlines and everything was based off of was looking at non-drinkers regardless of of their health. So a lot of them were sick.
Yep.
And so they died earlier.
Yeah.
But it just, they weren't drinking because they were sick already, or they had some sort of underlying issue.
Yep, exactly. That's Gregor's talked about that a lot. And that, I think people were really wrong about alcohol for a long time, thinking that 0 drinks a day was worse than 1 or 2 drinks a day. But it was only because if you drank 0 drinks a day, it was because you had, or many of them had stopped drinking because they already had a health condition. Yeah. And that's what made them more likely to die. Anyway, interesting stuff. My computer's ready to die. And you got to go too, Doug, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yep. I got to go.
All right. Talk to everyone tomorrow. 9:30 a.m. is the showtime tomorrow on Thursday. So don't be here at 11 or you'll miss it.
See you there.